Here, you know what's funny? That we don't call a moustache a mouth brow or a nose fringe.
That is funny. Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 37 of All Bronze No Brains, the podcast where we give our 2 cents on everything from Joyce's parenting to Buffy's chunky blonde streaks. And this week we are talking about season 3, episode 3, Faith, Hope and Trick.
Yes, David, you know this episode actually aired the day before I was 12 years old?
I did actually. I did.
Because I wrote
No,
it
I
in the
didn't know
script. This episode is also written by David Greenwald and directed by James Contner. And it gets its name from the 3 new characters that it introduces: Faith, Scott Hope, and Mr. Trick. We have a brand new Slayer, David.
Very good.
Oh my God.
I love Faith. Go ahead.
I love Faith as well. And we also have a new tech-savvy vampire that's come to town. And we have literally the introduction of the most boring love interest known to mankind. And also a surprise appearance of a very familiar bum right at the end of the episode.
Not just bum, but like Adonis, like back.
Yeah.
Oh my
Like dimples
God.
above those cheeks. Mm-mm-mm.
But just like, he must have been working out like fuck before that. So anyway, go get yourself a cup of tea, and while we roll the credits, join us for a brand new episode of All Bronze, No Brains. Okay, so we open with the Tarantino-style shot focusing on Willow and Oz's feet as they are about to take the big leap off campus for lunch, which they can do now as they're seniors.
Right, okay, oh my God. So this opening shot, Willow and Oz are kind of in coordinating outfits. I don't know if you noticed, which I'm totally here for, except there's this like big twig branch thing at like Oz's foot, and I just don't know why the director wouldn't be like, oh, here, let's like brush that out of the way. It really distracted me. Anyway, sorry.
I never noticed that in the
really
shot.
Annoyed me.
Did we ever get to... I can't remember. Were we allowed to leave school when we got to A level? I don't think so.
No, we never were. We
But
were in
other
primary
schools
school.
were. I know I used to go home for lunch in primary school all the time, but other schools you could leave it like, because you were there voluntarily. You weren't legally obliged to be in school, so you didn't have to. I think it's different whenever you're like below 16.
No,
you have to be.
I think it was because of the length of the driveway. Remember, it was like a 15-minute walk to get down that drive. Was it 15 minutes or did
Yeah,
it just
but you
seem...
would go out the back way into Creighton's.
Oh yeah, I think maybe people did that sometimes, but that was still far.
Yeah, fair. I was wondering if we could do that because I do feel like going into A level, which must feel like their senior year, is like a real big deal. Even more than AS level because you're the oldest in school and all. It was like a really...
Sure, remember they put the lock in the camera on the door, so if you were coming to school, then you had to like go through the camera and stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
Which thank God they did, because I used to go on the beak.
You always had to the big, for fuck's sake.
I know, I love.
Can't believe you still passed your exams. You're so smart. That's so
I'm
annoying.
so smart.
So Willow was talking about how it's a moment to be savoured with Sander, and then Sander and Oz just grab her and carry her down the steps.
Oh! No, I can't.
You can. See, you are.
Oh, but no. What if they change the rule without telling? What if they're lying in wait to arrest me and throw me in detention and mar my unblemished record?
Breathe. Breathe.
Classic Willow. I quite liked all this little bit at the start. As they head off campus, we see Buffy setting up a little picnic for them. How long do they get for lunches? Anyway, Willow suggests that they decouple, and Cordelia asks why, because the only guy that ever liked her turned into a vicious killer and had to be put down like a dog. It's so funny. And I liked Sanders a little bit when he was like,
Can she cram complex issues into a nutshell or what? All right, prepare to uncouple. Uncouple.
I also quite liked their little decoupling. It was so natural. It felt like exactly what teenagers do when an adult walks in.
Yeah.
You know
Like
what I
the
mean?
two girls and the two guys. Just,
Yeah,
like,
but they
swap.
just did it so like, like missed. It was very funny.
Also, I love the big fuss that they just made about going off campus for lunch, and they're literally going onto a piece of grass right at the front of the school.
I didn't notice that.
So they decouple, and we see that Buffy has made this lovely big spread of meats and cheeses. And Xander comments that Buffy is banned from campus, but not from their hearts. And Cordelia asks Buffy when she became Martha Stewart. And Xander jokes that Martha Stewart doesn't slay, but Oz responds, "Oh, I hear she can, but she doesn't. She doesn't like to." It's funny. Buffy mentions that they have another meeting with Snyder tomorrow to see about getting back into school. Do you remember at the end of the last one when Giles threatened him? So, maybe so horny.
Horny.
Horny. I'm horny, mommy. Willow gets distracted by an incoming boy, Scott Hope, who likes Buffy. Willow says he wanted to ask her out last year, but she wasn't ready. I'm like, why are they so eager for Buffy to... Willow especially is so keen for Buffy to move on. It's almost like she can't deal with the fact... Like, it isn't normal for her to be with someone and for Buffy to not be with someone, so it makes her uncomfortable or something.
But do you not remember that from school?
No,
Because you were
would just
chronically
be
single
more...
all the time and you're always a third wheel. Did you not always feel like people tried to set you up with girls all the time?
Who were you going out with in school?
You.
Willow suggests that Buffy does that thing with her mouth that boys like, and I'm like, damn, Buffy and I do the same moves.
Yeah, but then Willow's like, no, not that thing with your mouth.
Oh, I didn't mean that bad thing with your mouth. I meant that little half smile thing. You're supposed to stop me when I do that.
I like when you do that.
She means this little half smile thing that Buffy does. Do you know what she's talking about? Or is this a thing? Is this an actual thing?
No, I think it's just something she's kind of
okay.
made up.
She tells Oz he's meant to stop her when she rambles like that, but he says he likes when she rambles like that, which I thought was very sweet. I love
cute.
Oz so much. Scott walks past, says hi to Buffy, and I'd be like, what, am I chopped liver? What?
Yeah, he doesn't say hi to anyone else. He's like, hi, Buffy.
Am
I chopped liver?
What is chopped liver?
It's literally just chopped up liver.
I know, but I don't understand why that's a thing that you would ignore.
I think it's usually like a waste product of like butchery that you would give to your dog to eat.
Awful. What about awful? You're awful.
You're awful.
You're awful. Cordelia says he didn't try to slit our throats or anything, so that's progress.
I love when Xander was like, I saw the little half smile thing, you little slut.
I know. I'm surprised that they could say slut.
Maybe it's because he said shallot. Shallot.
You little shallot.
She's a little shallot. She's a little onion.
Schlots.
Oh my god.
All right, yes, date and shop and hang out and go to school and save the world from unspeakable demons. You know, I want to do girly stuff.
Right, first of all, Scott Hope. It's just like they've cast the most vanilla, boring person just to contrast Angel, which is maybe what they've actually done. And like, Blandrew Garfield, go, girl, give us nothing. We see a limo pull up to a fast food drive-thru, and we see a mysterious man, Mr. Trick, order a diet soda while talking to another mysterious figure about how quaint Sunnydale is. And we get a bit of meta commentary here when Mr. Trick adds that Sunnydale isn't a haven for the brothers. There's more people of the Caucasian persuasion in the deal. I'm like, oh Contra. They comment on the absolute fucking mad death rate in Sunnydale and how no one's doing a thing about it. And that they'll be able to fit right in. And that's when we see that the man he's talking to, he says we're here for one thing. And we see his big mad fucking cloven hoof hand. They're here to kill the Slayer. I love that big hoof.
It is gross. He's just a big stinking... I like when they do big gross stinking... Costumey stinking gross stinking
big
stinks.
hoofers.
Oh, you got a big hoof? Evil Peppa Pig says he's going to rip out the Slayer's spine. Evil Peppa Pig, very good. Evil Peppa Pig says he's going to rip out the Slayer's spine, eat her heart, and suck the marrow from her bones. Mr. Trick is like,
now I'm hungry.
his wee dangly legs as they pull out, and
I know they were just so casually like la la.
As if he's like,
yeah, that's what it was like.
So no cameras at this McDonald's. Nobody going like, here, where did Jeremy go? He was just in the window. Do you know what I mean? Like,
they probably reacted maybe like a minute later. And late
I
at
know.
night, you know what it's like. There's barely anyone there when you're like there till midnight.
Fair. Buffy's having yet another dream about Angel. This time dancing together at the bronze while the whole gang watch. And this real cold look in their faces when they're watching as well. It's very odd. Just very like blank. Buffy's wee clattering falls off her finger. And when Angel picks it up, the dream becomes a flashback of Buffy killing him. Oh, wait. I just realised that the clattering falling and Angel picking it up is a bit of a... Never realised that until right now. He squeezes the ring so hard that blood comes out of his hand, and blood also starts coming through his shirt where Buffy stabbed him.
Oh God, Angel.
Go to hell! I did.
Buffy wakes up and Joyce is super chirpy saying, "Morning, sunshine, ready to face the beast?"
I love Joyce now.
I like Joyce now because they're actually playing her, they're doing her some justice. But also, the dream sequences are quite good. They feel really dreamy. There's something very off about them, which is really good.
It kind of continues what we were talking about last week, obviously, which is this idea that, like, even though it appears that they've all talked through their issues, Buffy hasn't really. So she's still obviously affected by hers and having these dreams. But I do also like the idea. I wonder if these dreams are more than her psyche, if they're like Slayer related. You know, like
her dropping the ring and then him picking it up is not similar from what happens at the end of the episode.
Yeah, true. The power of the ring. Oh my God, Lord of the Rings.
You're Lord of the Rings.
The power of what one ring can do. One ring to rule them all. It's just my hope.
Just your big butthole.
We have this great scene in Snyder's office, who tells Buffy the conditions of her re-entry to Sunnydale High. He says, 1, she must pass a makeup test for every class that she skipped out on. That would be a lot of classes.
I thought he meant like a makeup test, as in like so you don't look rotten.
I make that joke later, so well done.
No way. Sorry.
Yeah. 2, provide one glowing letter of recommendation from a member of staff who's not an English librarian. And 3, complete an interview with a school psychologist to confirm that her violent tendencies are gone. Big Joyce is like, I'm not sure I like your attitude. And Snyder's like, yeah, well, welcome back, bitch. And he's got his back to them as he looks out the window. Buffy and Joyce share this like little look with each other that I quite like. Buffy's like, so let me get this straight. I'm really only back in school because the school board overruled you. Wow, that's like having your whole ability to do this job called into question when you think about it. Snyder does not look pleased, and Joyce doubles down on that, but I love that the way she does is just so childish and petty, and she's like, I think what my daughter's trying to say is na 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 na. And then the Summers women stomp out of his office like two big divas, and Snyder's wee intercom thing buzzes, it's the mayor on line 1, and he's like, oh fuck. Because the mayor's obviously going to be raging.
He's raging. Is he going to be raging?
That Buffy's back in school.
Oh yes, I forgot this is the big bad, isn't he?
Well, remember at the end of the season when she got kicked out, he rang the mayor. He's like, I've got good news.
That's right. I really like. Do you know what it is? Do you know why we like Joyce? Because her and Buffy are a wee team now. I think it's because they're a little like. She now is in on the secret, so there's none of this. Like sometimes I hate, and I get that TV shows have to do it whenever there's a secret identity, but I hate that trope sometimes. You get it in Spider-Man, and it was great that the animated Spider-Man series didn't do it as much. That whole like, oh no, I'm juggling my real life with my superhero, and it's like I find it sometimes, and I get like Buffy's doing this not way before anything, obviously Marvel's been doing it for like a century, but you have to do it. But I quite like the fact that now that she's in on it, that she can add more character to it, because even as we see throughout this episode, like there's another Slayer. Like, can you not just give it up and let this other one do it? I quite like all that stuff. Anyway.
Joyce is brilliant in this episode. I am just here for Joyce. And this episode should be called Joyce, Joyce, and Joyce.
Joyce. The Joyce is yours. Willow's dead happy that Buffy's back in school again. As they make their way into the library, Buffy asks, did Giles say what he wanted? Is he mad? Willow's like, no. Is he mad? I don't know why I said it like that.
Is he mad?
Have you ever noticed, though, when he is mad, but he's too English to say anything, he makes that weird cluck-cluck sound with his tongue?
Hi, Giles.
Oh, hi. Been there long?
Giles is doing doing a binding spell to make sure that Acathula stays dormant, and he needs details from Buffy on what happened during the final fight with Angel. Willow's obviously interested as she's a baby witch.
Oh, a spell? Can I help?
Possibly, with the research. It's very sensitive and...
who's more sensitive than me?
And difficult spell.
I quite like that Willow's got a wee bit of arrogance when it comes to the magic-y stuff.
I don't even know if it's arrogance. I think it's more like it's like her new hobby that she like really loves doing and she wants to get good. So it's like, No, if it's you'd be like, I need a new jumper, and I'd be like, I'll crochet you one right now.
But I got the impression though, because she knows she's good at it too. Like there's an element of confidence. I don't like. She's like, but who's? We read it differently, Tony. That's how I read it. That's fine. We can disagree. You can be wrong. It's fine.
Because she's talked about how good she's not at it, so I feel like she's looking for any excuse to kind of practice.
Buffy confirms some of the details. It was about 6 a.m. The vortex was just opening. Angel got to point the end of the sword and the Catha sucked him into hell instead of the world. Just very to the point, no emotion when she was giving that all, rhyming that off, which I thought was quite interesting.
Like, I'm not sure whether this next part was meant to be a diversion from talking about that, but Buffy says she has to run off and take an English makeup exam. She's got to do a smoky eye and a bold red lip. Lol, get it? So Willow's smelling the witchy supplies like, sage, I love it, oh my god. And Marnock's root, a smidge of this mixed with a virgin's saliva does something I know nothing about. I did try to Google what Marnock's root does when it's mixed with but I can't find it anywhere. So it was probably just made up. But Giles tells her that these forces are not to be played with, and asks her what she's been conjuring, and she says nothing much. She says she tried the spell to cure Angel, and that was a bust. And this answers a question actually that we had talked about as to whether Willow thought the spell worked.
That's right, we did talk about this last week. Yeah,
because I remember being confused as to whether she had. But obviously, she doesn't know that it worked, and Buffy hasn't confirmed it either. But since then, she's been floating feathers, she made fire out of ice, and she asks him if he's mad at her, and he says, no, of course not. If I was, I'd be making a strange clucking sound with my tongue. Right, this strange clucking sound, is this a tut? Are they talking about tutting?
I think it is a tut, yeah.
But
the Americans not called tut?
That's like the Irish mummy annoyance sign.
I know. How else are you supposed to know that your mummy's pissed off?
Yeah, if she doesn't go sick.
Is it tutting? But that is like the sort of thing that people would write in a book. They would say clucking, but why wouldn't they just make the sound?
Yeah. Tut is a tut, isn't it?
At the Bronze, Darling Violetta are playing, who later go on to perform the Angels theme song, which I did not know. That's very interesting. I wish the music genre would change. It's always a dreary, sad woman starting doing this, like, I'm like, I want some, like, energy. But they're all, like, dancing like this. They're all, like, dancing along, but the song's, like, really, like, floaty.
Yeah.
It's the musician in me. I can't help it. It does my head. And it's really, I can't wait for better music. Willow and Oz are making out very intensely, very realistically.
Like holding each other's yeah.
Yeah,
like when you're really into someone.
Yeah. Buffy's all chuffed because she's passed her English exam. She's hanging out with the friends and says, hello, my life, how I've missed you, which I loved. And then this is where Prince Blandrew, aka Scott Hope, comes over and kills all the crack in the room. And Willow pretends to be surprised to see him, but he's a massive tout and tells Buffy that Willow organised this little meet cute.
I'm sorry, I'm a bad liar. It's not good for the soul. Or the skin actually makes me blotch.
Hi, Scott.
Hi.
Fruit alert!
I thought the soul thing was a bit of a angel soul kind of bollocky.
Yeah.
It was a bit on the nose for me, again, on the soul. He's like, hey, isn't this song great? And it's literally it is literally the worst song ever played on any TV show. He asked Buffy, it's like Hallelujah Jeff Buckley song. It's like, wow, great tune, let's go. Hallelujah, hallelujah. So annoying. And she rejects him. She thinks, no, thank you. You're boring as fuck. I'd rather fall asleep in bed than on the dance floor, thank you. Didn't say that. Says no, not ready. She's not ready.
Well, that's the thing. Like, Buffy has repeatedly said she's not ready for this, and Willow keeps trying to. Like, it's actually it's a point of contention for me with this episode. It's like Willow's overinvestment in Buffy's. But she also did it at the end of season 2, right after Angel had turned bad, when she was like, "Come on, you need to start dating again. Like, it doesn't matter that your boyfriend is still evil in town, killing all your friends." Like that was pretty much like my marriage. Cordelia shows up saying, check out Slutorama and Disco Dave. And I was like, that's what our stage name should be.
Oh my god, is that our drag act?
It should be Slutorama and Disco Dave. She says, what was the last thing that guy danced to? Casey and the Sunshine Band. And we see him doing like...
Yeah.
And then
like disco dancing. Yeah, he was doing
Yeah.
that. Oh, what's that called?
looking into the distance, or like the lawnmower.
Is it not the thing that
Not lawnmower,
waters?
the water the what do you call them? Sprinkler.
Why does grip amnesia happen? Because I also couldn't remember the name for sprinkler either, and I think I made you amnesiac.
You made me
Anyway.
amnesia. As I say, remember that cartoon we used to watch, the Amnesiacs? I don't.
Animaniacs. Oh my god, that was the name of that cartoon.
was
I've been
great.
trying to remember the name of that cartoon for so long. You just brought it in the minute. Did you ever watch? Oh, I was thinking of Anastasia. I was like, why did the song now? How really feel? But it's because you're saying anyway.
I love her. So yeah, Buffy's watching that guy and this girl dance as the guy starts to take the girl outside. And I like that we see Buffy like look a bit more like she can sense that this guy's obviously a firkin vampire when she says, I don't think that guy thrives on sunshine, and then boosts off after them. But of course she happens to bump into fucking Russell Bland, aka Scott Hope, who thinks she's coming to dance with him, so she has to reject him again before running off outside. Also, Buffy's feet are so floppy sounding. Like, she sounds like she's in a caravan park in her flip-flops walking to the shower block.
I never noticed.
It's just in that scene, she's obviously wearing like that kind of shoe, but obviously
Yeah.
the Foley people have just got a flip-flop and banged it against the wall. The whole gang are now outside, which is obviously because we're about to meet someone important, because otherwise, why would all of them be following her outside for her to slay one vampire? We see that vampire telling the girl to stop struggling, this won't hurt. And she grabs the vampire by the throat, kicks him over, and as all the gang come running around the corner, she's like, it's okay, I got this. You're Buffy, right? She headbutts the vampire. She's like, I'm Faith. Grabs Buffy's stake and slays the vampire and is like, couldn't have done it without you.
What an intro.
What an intro.
What an
Also
intro.
so sexy.
So talk to me. Who have we got? Who is Faith? Who's playing Faith?
So Faith is played by Eliza Dushku. Fantastic actress. All of this time as well, she went on to be in like Bring It On. She was in Dollhouse, which was another great series by Joss Whedon. She was also in the TV show Bull, and there was a big like lawsuit that happened around that because of like some sexual harassment, which she won. And she
Wow.
has now gone on to work with her husband in like psychedelic assisted therapy. She just
Wow.
graduated with a degree in counseling last week from like university. So
That's amazing.
she's had a pivot in life and she's doing
Trying to
great,
help.
which is
Just seems like
great
she's
to
trying to
see.
help people. Seems like
Yeah.
really lovely. So inside the bronze, Faith is telling the gang some of her stories. Wrestling alligators, wrestling. And then she also mentions getting arrested with priests. You know, the usual.
Wow, they should film that story and show it every Christmas.
God, I could eat a horse. Isn't it crazy how slaying just always makes you hungry and horny?
The gang all turn to look at Buffy, who comments that sometimes she craves a non-fat yogurt after. Which also
I love that
is-
part, especially like Willow's face when she turned to look at Buffy. She was like,
Cordelia's like, I get it. Not the horny thing, yuck, the two Slayer thing, and explains the Buffy, Kendra, Faith thing, which is also like honk, honk for anyone who hasn't kept up. We've got Cordelia here to explain to anyone who's not listening in the back, which I also really like. Faith tells them her watcher has went off to some retreat in England, so she figured she'd come meet the infamous Buff and compare notes, asking her about the time she used a rocket launcher, which I also forgot she used a rocket launcher. When Xander asks about the naked alligator story, Cordelia interrupts.
Xander, find a new theme.
Faith asks Buffy what her toughest kill was. We get another flashback to Angel. Oz asks her position on werewolves.
Hey, as long as you don't go scratching at me or humping my leg, we're 5 by 5, you know?
Fair enough.
so yes, 5x5. This is the intro of Faith's iconic catchphrase that only recently I found out was like an army term. I thought it was like invented for Buffy. Faith asked Buffy a couple of questions and Buffy's going to answer them, and then the gang are so rude and they keep interrupting Buffy. It really annoyed me.
You're really
But
on
obviously-
Buffy's side today.
I know, just I feel for her. But Faith says to Buffy, we're going to have an absolute blast chick, watcherless and fancy free. And Buffy's like, watcherless?
It's a great honor to be invited. Also, I'm told.
Right. I did find this kind of funny, but why would they not invite the watcher of like one of the only active Slayers, the one who has the experience that gives their organization a reason to fucking exist in the first place. I know it's like for the story, but it just does not make sense to me.
I know what you mean, but there's also a bit of me where I'm like, a bit of real world. Like, when can the Watchers ever meet up to talk to each other? So there's a bit of like, I was willing to suspend my disbelief for this. I didn't really have a problem with that.
I think it was more the idea that they didn't invite Giles because they didn't like him.
That's the thing that I think is a bit funny. That's the bit that I'm struggling with. If they were like, your Slayer died, so you don't need to come here anymore, something like that, I'd be like, that's a bit more understanding. But anyway,
I guess technically it might be setting up the idea that like they don't agree with Giles's methods when it comes to like raising Buffy. Faith says, "Oh, it's way too stuffy for an absolute ride like Giles," saying, "If I'd have known they came that young and cute, I would have requested a transfer." And I mean, I've been saying it for a year, but Giles is an absolute zaddy.
Raise your hand if ill.
And did you notice that Willow's the only one who doesn't raise her hand?
No, I didn't. But that's good. That's funny.
I thought that was kind of cute. Giles thinks it's fortuitous that Faith has arrived when she did, and Willow's like, "Aha!"
Sorry, I just meant, aha! There's a big evil brewing. You'll never be bored here, Faith, because this is Sunnydale, home of the big brew and evil.
And Giles shows them a newspaper that confirms that some people have went missing from the Sunset Ridge area of town, and Buffy says she'll patrol after dinner, to which, of course, she also has to invite Faith. I do think it's interesting, though, that like everyone's like, right, Buffy, you need to look after the Slayer, instead of being like, any one of them could have invited her to dinner.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Especially Giles. Willow and Xander take Faith off and about, leaving Buffy in the library looking glum. This was just another thing that annoyed me. I know it's the point of the story because it's meant to emphasize how Buffy is feeling about all this, but I guess maybe it's just good writing because it made me annoyed. Giles tries to get more info out of Buffy about the fight with Angel, and she again kind of storms out in a huff, but Buffy seems to again have some sort of issue not being the only Slayer. What do you think that's about?
I don't know. I think maybe it's like someone coming and playing with your toys whenever, or do you know what it is actually? Wonder, is it maybe like, do you know, like you have a purpose?
Yeah.
And like a school, especially, and when people usually only have one thing that they're associated with. So like, you're the singer, or you're the footballer, or you're the nerd, or the whatever, or the gay guy, or whatever. And I think like her thing in her life is she is a Slayer. She's this one and only person that does this. And now this person's come in who her friends are finding funny. The guy that fancied her now is making sexual innuendos about her and not Buffy. Like, we'll see in the scene that she comes around and her mum starts liking her and stuff. I think it's this little bit of like, Buffy literally says at the start, "I just got my life back. Where have you been?" And then all of a sudden, not 5 minutes, not even at the end of that scene, you don't even get out of that scene before she finds the next Slayer.
Yeah.
So she's got all of 5 seconds to appreciate her time and her friends and her life before Faith comes in and ruins it.
And over here we have the cafeteria, where we were mauled by snakes.
And this is the spot where Angel tried to kill Willow.
Oh, and over there in the lounge is where Spike and his gang nearly massacred us all on parent-teacher night. Oh, and up those stairs, I was sucked into a muddy grave.
So I'm going to tell you the event, and you're going to tell me which episode that it happened in.
Okay.
So, getting mauled by snakes.
I Only Have Eyes for You. In the cafeteria.
Angel trying to kill Willow.
In Surprise. When it was going to snap her neck. Surprise, surprise. Surprise, surprise!
It's controversial, but Cilla Black has a terrible singing voice. I never understood why.
Yeah, she does. It's
I don't
the worst.
understand why everyone's like, her voice is amazing. It's anyway. Spike and his gang trying to murder them on parent-teacher night.
School hard.
And then Willow getting sucked off into the muddy grave.
That was also I Only Have Eyes for You.
Right, okay.
You're sucked off into a muddy grave.
Love that. That's how you'd love to go.
That's called cruising.
It's called dogging.
You guys are a hoot and a half. I mean, if I'd had friends like you in high school, I probably still would have dropped out, but I might have been sad about it, you know?
I think we hear a bit of Faith's accent there when she's like, but I would have felt sad about it. It's almost like Canadian. Is Boston kind of Canadian?
No.
Oh.
It's like Irish. It's like they have
sad
a weird,
about
like,
it. Sad about it.
the
Sad about it.
it's like,
Boston. Bobby.
no,
It is such a
it's
hard accent to do, I think.
a knock. A knock. If you were to say a narc, they
Yeah,
say
you
you
knock.
knock. You knock. It's like I love their accent, though. It's class. Faith asked them what's up with B. The fact she always calls her B. Yeah, do you know what it is? It's because Faith is coming in with all these little nicknames and stuff, and it's like, whoa,
She's
you've just arrived.
over familiar.
Over familiar, yeah.
Hey, so what's up with B? I mean, she seems wound, kind of tight, needs to find the fun a little, like you two.
She's wound kind of tight. She needs to find the fun a little and goes to get some water, but bumps into. This is your best one. She goes to get some water, but bumps into Mahatma Blondie, aka Scott Hope, recognizing him from the bronze. Buffy comes up to Xander and Willow, happy that she's aced another test, and stumbles upon them watching Scott and Faith flirt, with Willow being oddly invested in his romantic life, suggesting she set Faith up with Scott if Buffy is done with him. No, Willow is.
When Willow's like, I haven't seen him smile like that. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, you freak?
Why am I seeing a look?
You really do need to find the fun, B. Buffy.
It
That
is
was
that. And then Buffy drags Faith away from Scott as Faith asks him if he's seen anyone. I think Willow is doing the thing. I'm going to, again, stick up for Willow's behaviour here. But I think Willow's doing the thing that she never got the boy. Buffy usually got the boy. She was always the friend, and she was okay with being the friend because she's never experienced the bit where people fancy you and like you and want to kiss you. She now has that, and it's like, everyone should have this. Like, this is great.
But I think it's also because then she attributes how she felt without a boyfriend as to being less than, so therefore she maybe thinks that other people feel that way too.
Or if I don't think it's as maybe, but that's what happens. I think that subtleness happens when you're a teenager, that you're like, your whole worth becomes because you felt like shit when you're on your own. The writing is quite good in this one because it is. She's irritating. Faith is annoying as fuck in this episode.
I also like how her Faith's influence is so. It's like because it's such a different energy than Buffy's. It is more infectious than Buffy, and it does draw maybe a little attention to like. I think this is the underpinning thing of the episode, that Faith is kind of like a dark mirrored version of Buffy, and she represents like the freedom and the chaos that Buffy won't let herself be.
Oh, very good.
Which is great because obviously that builds up like during the season. Mr. Trick is telling evil Peppa Pig how the building they're in is wired with fiber optics. So basically they've got super fast broadband and they can get anything that they want. But evil Peppa Pig is like, I want the blood of the Slayer! I think they're trying to set up the fact that like Mr. Trick is this like tech savvy modern vampire.
Yeah.
And the idea of like fiber optics in 1998 is quite ahead of its time.
Yeah.
But I also was wondering, is he like, oh, this building's got fiber optic? It was making me wonder if it's like, oh, is the town like wired because the mayor is doing stuff, or was it just a coincidence? I don't really know. I don't know. So dumb. Anyway, all of that to say, I don't know.
Me neither.
Mr. Trick tells Peppa that this town already has a Slayer, revealing that they're actually after Faith, and evil Peppa wants revenge for the big fucking mad scar on his face.
She's going to pay for what she did to me.
Back at Buffy's house, Joyce is serving Faith some dinner and they're all talking about slaying. And Faith tells Joyce that she loves it, knowing that she's going to win. And Joyce is like, oh, that's positive affirmations and all that. I'm very into that. Buffy can be very negative, so she can.
You would have been the king of that, you know? Like, you bring your mate round to your house and they like completely like be way nicer, and they're not even like that. It's like, you're the dickhead in this relationship, and you would have been all like, thanks, Maureen, can I just have a little bit more, please? And it's like, see, David would never be like that. David would not, and then you just sit like going like,
but see, that's not even being fake. That's just like being nice to people's parents.
It used to be bit OTT.
My mum serves you a crispy pancake and you throw it back at her. You're like, ah!
I fucking hate crispy pancakes. So
Buffy and Joyce have a wee moment in the kitchen where Buffy jokingly complains about Faith getting on well with her friends, her watcher, her mum, and her not boyfriend.
It's probably good you were an only child.
My God, Joyce, you're funny. When Buffy jokes about she's the one being single white femaled in reference to the 1992 psychological erotic thriller.
Never seen it.
Joyce is the voice of wisdom here when she says that she's happy to have someone who can share the slime with Buffy. Two of them fighting is safer. She even suggests that Faith could maybe take over so that Buffy can go to college.
Which I don't think is that's fair.
No, I think she's got good points.
So Buffy explains to Joyce that Faith can't just take over. The only way you can get a new Slayer is when the previous Slayer dies. And that's when Joyce realizes that Buffy has died. Which also is one of those moments where Buffy's went, oh fuck. You can just see that moment.
Yeah.
She's like, shit.
Yeah. When did you die? You never told me you died.
I knew you would have it. Like, I could hear you saying her singing that, like, died. You told me you died.
No, it was just for a few minutes.
Oh, I hate this. I hate your life.
I know what she means, as in, like, hate the life that you live, but it also sounds like I hate that you're alive.
This next part, I think, is like, gives us the biggest growth moment of Joyce to show how far she's come.
Yeah. Yes, because she says she knows that Buffy didn't choose this. She knows it chose her.
I have tried to march in the Slayer Pride Parade, but I don't want you to die.
Which is so sweet, and also, like, I love that, is that her now not wanting to march in pride parades anymore?
Homophobe.
Joyce would have been a Trump supporter though, but like a nice one. They share a nice embrace and Buffy reassures her she's not going to die. And like, this just was such a beautiful moment. It's like, this is what you've kind of been waiting on since she came back. And I quite like that they've allowed it to ruminate in the house almost. Like, it feels deserved and not over the top either. It feels like how these moments sometimes happen. You could have a moment with your parent or a friend in the other room while you're having a dinner party. Do you know what I mean? Those are growth moments are just growth moments. Like, it doesn't happen. Sometimes you could just be sitting on the bus and it's a vibration that makes you grow.
Oh yeah, it is. Especially if you're sitting over the wheel.
Buffy tells Joyce not to worry. She's got help now. She's got all the help she can stand. Cut to Buffy and Faith patrolling, and things seem a little frosty between them.
You've been doing this the longest.
I have.
Yeah, maybe a little too long.
Buffy asks her what the fuck that's supposed to mean. What the fuck's your problem? Faith tells her, oh, I'm fine, chick. Wonder what your fucking problem is, actually.
She says, I'm 5'5", living large.
Living la vida loca, huh?
Faith is like, oh, what is it? Is it the angel thing? And Buffy's like,
squeeze me? Oh, no, you did.
Don't ever bring up Angel again. Faith says, well, she only knows what Buffy's friends have told her. Big love, big loss, ought to deal and move on, but you're not. And Buffy is pure seething with rage. And I love this part. And she tells Faith, like, fuck up and don't get involved in my life, right? Faith is just super chill, and I love how antagonistic she is without trying when she responds, what are you getting so strung up for, B? And Buffy's like, why are your lips still moving, F?
Did I just hear a threat?
Would you like to?
I just like seeing Buffy kind of stand up to her, and that, like, she's not intimidated by her, even though she's the sweeter of the two.
Yeah.
Faith pretty much offers her a fair dig, and Buffy's like, well, how long? Because there's loads of vampires behind you first we need to get rid of. And pushes Faith out of the way. I love in TV shows when someone pushes someone out of the way to save them. They don't, like, move them gently. She literally, like, fucks her across the room.
And she's a Slayer too. She probably accidentally does fuck her across the room.
We get a great fight scene here, very energetic, and a nice change of scenery from the graveyard fights by using this construction site.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a theme in this episode. Like, everything takes place in somewhere new, which I think is quite exciting.
It's expanding the world a little bit visually, so you're not just seeing the same thing over again.
They clearly got some money.
And they got them dollar bills.
Yeah. So Buffy dusts one of these vampires and takes on all the others, while Faith just absolutely starts pummeling the fuck out of the one she's fighting. And Buffy tells her, hurry the fuck up and stake him so you can help me, right? And two of the vampires overpower Buffy, about to bite her, as they say, for Kakistos we live, for Kakistos you'll die, as Buffy screams for Faith to help.
And Faith is going absolutely mental on this vampire, just keeps beating the tripe out of it, while Buffy manages to stake the ones attacking her. and stake the one Faith is fighting too. Buffy's like, dickhead, what the fuck you doing? Faith acts like nothing's wrong and tells Buffy she thought she could handle herself, which is, I fucking hate. This is where, that's the turn. That's the heel turn in Faith. That little wee comment there is like, oh, you're a wee dick. Anyway, in the school hallways the next day, Buffy is getting Giles up to speed on what happened with Faith. Giles, can I pause here a second?
Yeah.
Has Faith been in the school?
Earlier in the episode.
So Buffy wasn't able to get on school premises, but Faith could just stand her in?
Oh, yeah!
But remember when she was banned?
But I think it's because Buffy specifically was expelled.
Oh, right, okay. Faith just anybody? Okay, fair.
Yeah, she just looks like another student.
Buffy's getting Giles up to speed with what happened with Faith. Giles tries to mediate a bit by telling her that maybe they just have different styles, but Buffy's like,
Girl's not playing with a full deck, Giles. She has almost no deck. She has a 3.
what does that even mean? Nah, she's not playing with full deck. She almost has no deck. She has a 3, just a low card. She's like...
Yeah.
Giles calls her a plucky fighter who got carried away. Buffy admits she knows she sounds like a right jealous bitch, but still thinks Faith needs help. Giles says he'll contact her watcher at the retreat and let them know. This made me go like, honk, honk, they're all dead. I thought all the watchers were dead at this point.
No.
But asks Buffy for more info on the vampire she fought last night.
Oh, the one that nearly bit me mentioned something about kissing toast. He lived for kissing toast.
Do you mean Kakistos?
Maybe it was taquitos. Maybe he lived for taquitos. What?
Those are my favourite moments, is Buffy trying to say the magic words.
Yeah. Yeah, when she says things wrong, like Alfranken or alfalfa.
Yeah, all that. I love that. That's so cute, or something's very funny. Giles is like, oh, kakistos, smarty pants. Giles tells Buffy that kakistos is Greek. It means the worst of the worst. It also is the name of a vampire so old his hands and feet are cloven, aka Evil Peppa Pig.
Evil Peppa Pig.
They wonder if it's a coincidence that he showed up around the same time as Faith. Buffy says there's 2 things she doesn't believe in: coincidences and leprechauns.
Well, Buffy, it's entirely possible that they both arrived here by chance simultaneously.
Okay, but I was right about the leprechauns, right?
As far as I know. Yeah.
I quite like the leprechaun bit, because it was the first question I was going to ask as soon as I came on the podcast. Do we ever see a leprechaun in Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
Well, apparently they don't exist until in the comics a few years later. Then they do bring them.
Oh, right, okay, but not on the TV show.
No. On her way out of the library, Buffy runs into Blandrew Lloyd Webber, who once again harasses her into accepting a date. Buffy, now completely fully wore down, finally accepts, even though it's to a Buster Keaton festival. Like, go and watch Scream or something. It's just too try-hard and pretentious for someone like Buffy, and then he annoys me. He's too try-hard. I just don't know why she's being forced into going with him.
I just don't think the cast very well. He just doesn't have love. He doesn't have.
I think he's probably cast actually really well. That's the problem.
Oh well, yeah. Maybe.
I don't know if maybe we're meant to feel. I just presume we're meant to feel this way because that's what I feel. But but then he goes into like a full-on fucking creep mode by presenting her with. He's like, "Oh, I got you a wee present. I got you this ring, and it's a fucking claddagh ring," which obviously causes Buffy to freak the fuck out because of Angel. And I'm like, Scott, come on, buddy, you're trying too hard.
That was a bit OTT though. You don't rock up at a first date with a ring. What the fuck?
I know, and even as I was writing this, I was like, that's totally something I would do.
Yeah, it is totally a you thing.
That's why I'm like, even though realistically, he's really very sweet and lovely, the poor thing, It's just, it comes across as mental. That's just like me. And when Buffy says she can't do this, he finally takes the hint and leaves, which at least he was respectful. But of course, that's right when Giles shows up and it's like, are you all right, chick? What did you think about Sarah Michelle Gellar's performance?
I thought it was really
scene?
good. I thought it was very believable. I thought it was great. What do you think?
It's the way she can just turn on that kind of like shock and like, see whenever Giles then goes to like touch her and she like jumps back because she doesn't realize it's Giles and it like takes her a minute to realize that it's him.
Yeah.
I just think that would be so hard and complicated to try and work all those things. I guess acting, you really just have to pretend that it's happening to you. I guess that's what acting is. But it is just like, I thought it was incredible. I just don't know how she does it because crying is hard.
Practice. Just practice.
Yeah. Yeah, so Giles basically comes out to see Buffy and he's like, by the way, Face Watcher is dead. So we cut to Faith at the motel she's staying at, and she's behind in her payments and is trying to flirt with the manager, so he'll let her off. And he mentions that the room is $18 a day, which is $558 a month, and in pounds that's £412. And did you know that my house on Broadway to rent was only £330 a month when I lived there?
Holy shit! So you could have rented a whole
house in Belfast
for the whole house.
Me, Ali, and Martin paid £130 a month each.
110.
Oh, 110 a month. I can't count. I think we maybe paid 130, and that included our bills.
Including bills?
Isn't that mental?
Fuck me. That is just somebody who that house, somebody's been murdered in that house. They just needed someone to live in it to cover up the crime.
Well, out of curiosity, I looked up how much a house is now on Broadway, and it's like £950 a month.
But look up what that is equivalent of whenever you were renting it 15 years ago,
in that
because
time.
it's inflation.
Yeah, no.
Let's not be that generation of adults to forget how inflation works and be like, back in
That's
my
right.
day, it's like, what's equivalent?
Totally right. My dad was sending me pictures yesterday of like caravans and camper vans and stuff to buy. So Buffy, it's you. Sorry.
So Buffy shows up to the motel and mentions that Kakistos is in Sunnydale, and Faith starts packing in a panic. They go at it a little bit here. Buffy's offering to help. Faith tells her she can deal with it herself. Faith's like, you don't know me. You don't know me. You don't know what I've been through. I'll take care of this. Buffy asks, like, you took care of your watcher?
Oh, burn, bitch.
You're dead. So it turns out Kakistos killed Faith's watcher. She actually says they don't have a word for what he did to her, which is pretty grim.
Faith, you run. He runs after you.
That's where the head start comes in handy.
Faith.
He grabs Faith by the neck with his big mad hoof. How? Does he have an opposable thumb? I can't remember.
I think he's got an opposable hoof part.
But Buffy manages to get the door closed, which he has no problem breaking down almost instantly, which I find so dumb when there's a big, strong person there. Like, let's close this tiny little door. That'll stop him. Anyway, Faith is freaking out, causing Buffy to shout,
"Scream later! Escape now!"
And they escape out a window into some alleyways, which looks like a nice new addition to the set. You're right, they are really expanding like the world. Mr. Trick splits the accompanying vampires up as Peppa runs after Buffy and Faith.
Mr. Trick also did this in a really like gay dancey way, because he was like so Buffy and Faith burst through some random window in the alleyway into an abandoned building, thinking they've lost Kakistos. Faith explains to Buffy that she saw what he did to her watcher, and when she tried to stop him, that's when she obviously like made a big fanny scar on his face, and she ran away. So Buffy tells her the first rule of slaying is don't die, so she did the right thing. Buffy tries to pep talk her by saying there's one of him and there's two of us. But as Buffy's saying that, Faith realizes that he's drove them into his lair, and a new big fight erupts. And yeah, I'm just loving all these new sets. Everything just feels nice and fresh, and they feel huge. I feel like the vampires have to run for ages to catch like Buffy and Faith, which is good. Which is obviously like the repurposed Hell set from episode 1. You know.
Oh yes, of course. Oh yeah, of course it is. Yeah.
Buffy literally takes on 4 vamps while Peppa corners Faith and starts beating the absolute fuck out of her with his hoof. Hoof days. We both did that. Buffy manages to stake Peppa, but nothing happens, and he's like, "Guess you're gonna need a bigger stake." Mr. Trick. Sorry.
Sugar water.
Sugar water. Mr. Trick sees all of this happening and has presumably a good self-preservation about him. And him and this blonde curly vampire are like, meh, our prayers are with him, and they run away. Faith grabs this big, massive fucking wooden beam and rams it through Kakistos, turning him to dust, and they look absolutely burst. Buffy asks Faith, you hungry? And Faith responds, starved.
This whole scene was amazing. It was so good. Yep. And I know why sometimes I'm like, oh, they always, from seasons 1 and 2, maybe halfway through season 2, it got better, but that the end fight was always just like one punch kill, and it was always really boring. Like, you built this up to like a one punch kill, and now because they have all these great stunt actors and they've got great stunt actors for the leads as well, like it just makes the fighting so good and realistic, and like and all the red-a-tat between the two of them and stuff. And I actually really appreciated that Faith was genuinely frightened. Like was class that she was genuinely scared. Not that I love women being scared, but I do. But it's more that it was just the fact that like, oh, it's nice to see a bit of fear rather than that constant like, we can take on anything. We're so cool. Do you know that like Joss?
Yeah, but that's it. Evil Peppa was quite a scary villain.
Well, he lasted quite a long time. So I mean, his score count right up
Yeah.
until he's alive. But I wish we could find out a little bit more about their wee lore. I wish you could find out a bit more about where they give you a bit more detail.
Well, they do in other media. So like the Buffy the Vampire Slayer Xbox game Chaos Bleeds, there's a whole section where you play as Faith and Kakistos and stuff is there. So it's I don't know. Sometimes obviously when they do these episodes, that's maybe not the plan, but it is good that Buffy has a lot of other media out there where they do kind of explore other characters and stuff, which is cool.
That is cool. So the next day in the library, Buffy and Willow are talking with Giles, who reveals that he will temporarily be Faith's watcher as well until they assign a new one. Buffy gives Faith her kudos for dealing with trauma and moving forward, and this leads Buffy into her own revelation. Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, so this is when Buffy reveals to Willow and Giles that Angel was cured when she killed him. She tells them the truth, that she was about to kill him when something went through him and he was Angel again, but it was too late and she had to. She told him that she loved him, then she kissed him, and then she killed him. And I had a wee tear watching this part.
That's so sad.
That
is so sad.
I think it's just, she delivers this so well. We obviously hear the theme again. And now it's like, it's a moment for Buffy. I'm glad that they've taken these 3 episodes for Buffy to be able to even say it. Because it makes it feel more real. Like, it makes the emotional weight of
Makes
it
feel heavier. Gives it weight and heft.
And also, I think the look on Alison Hannigan's face as Buffy's like revealing it, and obviously she doesn't have any real dialogue here, but she just sells it with the look.
Yeah, Alison Hannigan's face always looking traumatized is the best thing in the world.
There's just like something about this quality of acting that sometimes makes me forget I'm watching like as supernatural teen drama. You know, Buffy tells Giles that she doesn't know if that will help with the spell or not, and he says it will.
I'm sorry. It's okay. I've been holding on to that for so long. Felt good to get it out. I'll see you guys later.
And then she tells him that she'll see them later. And even when she was like, I'll see you later, it didn't feel like overly sad. There was kind of like a lightness that came, even though the whole vibe is sad anyway. But I really, really loved this scene. I thought it did real justice to the whole storyline, which is kind of ironic considering what's about to happen.
I know. But it is also like, that's just how traumas are. That's just how life works. Like, you're traumatized until you suddenly just get better. Time cures all wounds and all that. And I love this Willow moment here where she wants to support her friend after what she's learned, and she tells Giles she can help him even though he doesn't like her playing with mystical forces. Giles feels that there is no spell, and the camera lingers on Willow. What did you think of this little moment?
I even have goosebumps thinking about it. I just thought it obviously was so smart on Giles's part to be able to try and think of a way that he could get Buffy to be able to talk about this herself without pushing her.
I'm going to say it's so smart of David Greenwald. I did not see that coming. This little spell, this little like what do they call that? MacGuffin. This MacGuffin of a spell that's been talked about the whole time was just it's because he's older and wiser and knows that she's experienced something and needs to get it out, or else it just festers like all horrible traumas and stuff. Yeah, I loved it too. I thought it was amazing, and it was just there was a wee smug look on Giles's face too, like a little like, and I quite liked that. Buffy's waiting outside. Buffy is waiting outside one of Julie. Sorry. Buffy is waiting outside one of Julie Blandrew's, aka Scott Hope's, classes, attempting to make things right with him. Tells him that there's someone in the past and the ring freaked her out, but she liked what he said about friendship and Buster Keaton is big fun.
Wow, if I knew I was going to go on this long, I probably would have brought some water.
And ask him out to the film festival, to which he obviously says yes. He says like, no, okay, yes.
Yeah,
but
I'm going to have to think about this. Okay. It did make him more endearing in this kind of moment.
Yes. Because we know we're never going to see him again. Or do we ever see him again?
Well, we do, because they're gone out now. We cut to the Crawford Street mansion where Buffy killed Angel, and we hear the piano theme, and Buffy lays down her clatter ring and says goodbye to Angel, finally able to move on from everything that's happened. And I don't know if you noticed, but the version of the theme that played had this kind of otherworldly choral
It was a synth
accompaniment.
rather than an oboe, I think, yeah.
Yeah, but it sounded almost like voices, I think the effect, so it had that kind of like
Ethereal.
otherworldly, ethereal, that's the word. Which, if this had have been the end of this whole, that would have been such a great, poignant
You could have
way
never
to
had
wrap
Angel
things.
again and you would have accepted it. It was great.
And I love the fake out because the light fades to black on that ring for a second, and then it fades back up as there's a beam of light that shines
Spot
down on
comes
it.
in on the ring, yeah.
And the ground begins to shake, and the heavens open up, and we see David Boreanaz's bum as a very sweaty, naked, and confused looking Angel is like shaking on the ground. And we cut to the credits. Oh, meh. Great. Great. I loved this episode, and I loved this ending. It felt like a big shock because they made the effort of having Buffy really move past it. And I think that's what makes it even better.
Yeah. Oh, I remember the next few episodes now. Yeah, it was amazing. And I also loved David Boreanaz actually did look freezing, and I'm curious to know, because he's a bit wet, did they just fuck a bucket of water over him just before they hit action so that he could be just properly shivering like that there? Because it looked, he properly was shivering. When I watched this, I was like, I didn't know how they brought Angel back. I thought this episode was brilliant. I like, everybody had a point. Even the background, even like the guest, like Cordelia and Oz, like, who really didn't have, a point per se in this episode, but they were necessary. Oz being that little cutting of tension at times, and Cordelia being the person that's catching people up that maybe have missed a few episodes, like, how do we have 3 Slayers at this point? And it felt very well crafted and well, just like, it was just fucking great monster. I like Mr. Trick. He's like the new Spike-esque witty, or like that character that's always like about themselves. Like, I kind of like that character sometimes. It was great.
Yeah, there were some great kind of like themes or kind of like talking points for this episode that I just thought were very interesting. So obviously with the introduction of Faith, I love that we are kind of getting this kind of mirror held up to Buffy, like the duality of the Slayer identity. And they make that really obvious from the outset because Buffy and Faith both obviously have a very different approach to slaying. Where Faith says she loves it and Buffy's like, oh, it's dangerous.
Something I must do.
Yeah, but like it feels like a burden to Buffy, but like a thrill to Faith.
Yeah. That's a really good point, actually, yeah.
And I kind of love that representation of Faith as like Buffy's shadow self, that kind of embodying the freedom that Buffy actually fears. And I think it's because I never really thought about it in this way before, but Faith, I guess, does represent to Buffy, like if she just let go of like all of her
everything, friends, family, all of it.
Her friends, family.
If she was just a Slayer and nothing else.
And just like embrace the power that maybe, and I think then it does go to show maybe how much self-restraint that Buffy shows with her power, because Faith is obviously the kind of person that like just goes kind of bush, but Buffy has to think about how to hold that back so she can have a normal life.
But I even think like Buffy, even though the vampires are evil demons, there's still a level of like, she's not trying to torture anybody. She's just trying to do her job. And
she like respectfully kills them and moves on.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Buffy actually does say to Faith in the episode that the job is to slay vampires. It's not to beat them to a bloody pulp.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. She does say that when she's beating them up.
Obviously, the other kind of big theme that continues on from the end of season 2 is the idea of trauma, guilt, and suppression. And almost everyone has a little bit to do with these kind of themes in this episode. Obviously, we dealt with the gang's version of that in the last week's episode.
Yeah.
And that's why I think now this episode meant even more watching it, because it was the first time I'd clocked Giles's little look at the end of the last episode.
Yes, I
where
remember
he
you said
felt,
last week. Yes, that's right.
where he felt like it wasn't quite over.
He hasn't got the
And
full story.
the full story, that's it. Yeah, Buffy finally being able to talk about killing Angel because Giles has gave that room, like,
Safety.
for Buffy to be
That safe space
yeah,
to talk about it.
yeah, which is really like, I think when it comes to things like this, that's where there's like a danger zone of Giles being too invested in Buffy. Not in a bad way for me, because I like his kind of father type relationship, but I think this is where we're going to start to see the gray area where his actual affection for Buffy is going to become a bit of his.
Well, I actually think in the previous episode we seen it first in the kitchen, or was it the first step? Then the second.
Yes,
the
when
previous
he
episode,
was
when he's emotional for a set. Whenever he hears them talking and he's just gives himself a moment.
Yeah.
That was all very like, I love that bit. I thought that is when I'm like, that's where the grey area starts coming in, because that's not just Watcher. That's like, that's someone he loves and cares about, obviously, more than his job.
And I think even Buffy, like, not actually being able to move past it because she's only been given them the abridged version of events up till now.
She's never admitted, never said it out loud. She's never said it out loud to anybody, and that's like half the battle is just admitting it.
Yeah, the truth will set you free.
Yeah, and like realizing the thought in your brain isn't the power that it has in there isn't actually as powerful out here when you say it. It's just noise. Do you know what I mean?
And then the other kind of thing that plays into that, I think, is Faith's survivor's guilt, basically, for what happened with her Watcher.
The pummeling of the vampire and stuff is all very like OTT and anger. It's like anger, it's bubbling underneath there, and we find out why, and because it's fear and anger, I feel like go very close together and stuff.
So yeah, I thought this was good. Then we have Faith dealing with her trauma and being able to move on, and by Buffy helping Faith do that, that actually helped Buffy be able to deal with her
trauma,
her own trauma. And then the other thing is the evolution of the big bad. I kind of love this idea that Mr. Trick has this great line where he says to Kakistos, the world is getting smaller and the old ways are dying out. And it's kind of funny that we see this big, bad, old looking vampire. He's the one that's defeated easily, while Mr. Trick is the one who's like self-preservation keeps him alive. And it kind of, I think, is to show this. It's also like the evolution of the show, I think, now, where we're starting to see, okay, we're going to see the introduction of maybe like technology and all of that.
Yes, I was just thinking that's like they're bringing it into the new world. That's quite fascinating. I'm actually really interested with the new season coming out. How you just get round everyone having a camera. Everyone's got a camera, so everyone's being watched. So how do you hide? Probably AI. They're going to use AI shit, I think, or maybe AI will be the big bad. But yeah, I love that Mr. Trick's self-preservation, like, because evil people are truly evil people. When it's my favorite bad guys are people who are actually bad. Not misunderstood, or they've got a greater purpose, like Mr. Freeze from Batman was just really trying to save his wife the whole time and all this, like, and it's like given like, I like it whenever you have depth to character, and like when bad guys don't always have just because they're evil, but sometimes I like it when there's just an evil guy being a bastard and he always sneaks away at the end. Because it was like, reminded me of when I was a kid, like there was always like the ones that would bully me the most were like the skinny, sneaky kids that were always 2 feet, like would be one way to the teacher and they would just be a real dick in the playground. I used to really hate that unfairness. But it was a great episode. Really, really good episode. Season 3 is really living up. And thusly.
Oh, good. Glad you like it.
Thanks. Folks, if you've enjoyed hanging out with us, make sure to follow us on all of our social media accounts. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok.
Yeah, we are.
YouTube at All Bronze No Brains. So just type in All Bronze No Brains, one word, and you will be able to find us because no one else has that name. Hopefully.
True. Well, hopefully. And if you want to support the pod, unlock bonus content, or even just help us fund Faith's leather pants budget, check out our Patreon. It's only £3.50 a month, which is like half the price of a decent latte.
Half?
Yeah.
A latte £7?
A latte's like £7.
What the fuck? Where you getting your lattes from?
Starbucks.
Dubai? Why?
Starbucks.
No, you shouldn't be shopping at Starbucks anymore. They're bad guys.
To be fair, I don't go to Starbucks ever, but I'm out of touch with the world because I don't know how much stuff costs.
Clearly, it's not
a pint of milk.
Pint of milk.
It costs more than.
It costs half of a pint of milk.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll be back next week with Beauty and the Beasts, where we finally ask the question: where the hell has the angel been, and why is he so wet? Thought hell was warm.
Yeah.
Thought hell was warm.
I thought will it be sweaty? Because it's warm.
Oh yeah, fair. Well, that's answered my question. So come back next week and see if there's any other questions.
That's it. Yeah, come back.
Thanks,
let's find out why the angel's wet. Trust me, I'll be wet the whole episode.
Oh God. Bye.
Bye.